Yes, people, welcome back to another episode of Barber Talk. Today we have got Joe and then myself, the certified barber, and Jo-ell, of course. Let's get straight into it.
First of all, thank you for coming on, bro.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you, honestly,
Definitely.
guys. I'm looking forward to it.
Can we bring things back a little bit and come to where everything started? How did you get into doing what you do? First of all, what is it that you do?
So, you probably heard this before, right? It's obviously a coach, online coach.
Yeah.
I still work still work in person, but majority of the work that I do now is online. So, online fitness coach, and I know there's millions of online fitness coaches at the minute. So that's really what I'm doing at the minute with what I do. I've been coaching for about 6 years now. So that's a combination of inline in person, and now majority of the work I do is online. So about the last 3.5, 4 years remotely. So yeah.
And how did you first get into this? Like, what was it that made you think, you know what, this is something I want to get into? What was it?
You know what? It's funny because I'd say it was almost a way of, I kind of got forced into it. Okay. It's like a coping mechanism for like things that were going on when I was younger. So it started like using fitness as an outlet for dealing with things. So, you know, I started off doing a lot of running. Yeah. So, you know, it's like you just go into the gym, you know, run on the treadmill for like an hour and then come out. So it was that was the kind of thing that started me off. So it wasn't really, you know, some people, you know, I didn't really find the enjoyment to it until, but I'd say the last kind of like 5-6 years. So at the start, it was more of just a coping mechanism.
Would you say more of a stress relief for you?
I would say, yeah, I'd say it was more of an outlet.
Yeah.
It was just a way of switching off.
Yeah.
But it was almost like just, I wasn't consciously aware of it. I just kind of did it. And I was like, this is a way of like dealing with what's going on. So it's just like you tap into it like that. And then you're like, okay, if there's stuff going on, you just go tap into it. And it's just one of those things where you can just go into it whenever you want. But it was quite a vicious cycle to the point where it was like punishment. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's almost like you're forcing yourself to do it.
Yeah.
So
I've seen your before and after pictures, what you sometimes put on Instagram.
Yeah.
Your transitions are insane, bro. Insane.
Yeah.
And you put a lot of free information out on your social media.
Yeah.
With not only just, you know, I do say to you, you know, I don't see you as just a fitness coach. I see you as like a lifestyle coach. You know, you're the type of person where if I needed help with something, I would come to you for advice because you very much practice what you preach, but you're very knowledgeable in not just fitness, in other things. You give out a lot of information on your social media about lifestyle choices and stuff. What could people expect when they say, let's say if someone sends you a message, say, right, can I come on board with you? What they're going to get?
And I think this is a thing with online coaching at the minute. It's very much like, I think a lot of people say it's like you obviously differentiate yourself within the market, but I don't feel, you know, unless anyone can be a fitness coach, but I think it's really about, you know, who are you as an individual, you know, because a lot of the time, and I see it, a lot of people don't resonate with clients, like a lot of coaches don't resonate with clients, they talk about obviously just training and not able to relate. And I think that's the thing, like for me, I've been there, you know, like you said, I've been in that position where I've been out of shape, I've been overweight, underweight, so I've kind of been one end of the spectrum to the other, you know, really good shape, lost it all. So it's like, I can find it easy to relate with people. So I kind of know how to kind of talk to people in that sense. And maybe that's why, maybe people feel approachable, they find me approachable because of like the different like areas I've been through with the coaching and transformation. So I'd say that really is where, for me, I'd say it's just making, you've got to be authentic at the end of the day. And I think if you're not, people will see through it. And I think that was the one thing I was always cautious of. It's like you said, practice what you preach. Do I do that? I need to make sure I'm doing that. Yeah,
because you're very real. This is the thing. You're very, very real. And there's, you know, other coaches out there. What kind of, you know, I mean, being realistic. There's some coaches on there will just pump a load of gear, get big, take a few pictures, you know, in our B-file. If you want to look like me, DM me now. I'll sing you a nutrition plan. And it's not the case. Do you know what I'm saying? This is what I like about you. You're very real, and you've, you know, from the transformation pictures that you've shown, everything that you do, you live. Just because obviously we train, well, I go to the gym that you do a lot of your work at, so I've known you for a long time. But with online coaching, is it? Would you say? Do you do? You do nutrition?
Nutrition. Yeah. Training.
Training programs.
Training programs.
All that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So the training programs are customized, obviously, to the individual. So I work with a lot of business owners, people that are in a pretty tight schedule. So it's like, how can we make things effective, efficient, to fit around the schedule? So that's one area. And obviously, another thing is as well is like, people forget it's the mindset, because it's like, if you're not ready to take on a transformation, there's a good chance that if you step into it, you'll rebound. And that's what a lot of people do. They think that, I'm ready for it, but they don't understand that you've got to understand who you are first before this is a transformation in itself physically, but you've got to understand who you are. And that's part of the work that I do when I'm, jumping on calls with my clients. I'll be like, okay, look, and I don't like to really refer to them as my clients, say them my team, because I like community. Community is massive. And I think even more now than ever, like, community is such a big thing. People are missing that connection. And I think this is a thing, like you were saying about, coaching. There's people out there, there's coaches out there, they just want to make money. But then there's coaches out there that want to have an impact. And it's completely different in my mind. Like,
it's more of a passion for you, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I love the fact that you kind of get people to look at themselves and...
Massively, yeah.
You can relate to people at the same time as well. Like, I've been there.
Yeah.
I love that, bro.
Yeah.
That's mint, that is, man.
I feel like that's what a lot of people need.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, I want to get massive. You need to understand what you need to do first. Yeah. Like you said, mindset.
Yeah. But like you said, and it's one of those things that I've got in really good shape, but then in here, completely rock bottom. So it's like,
you've gone for a full-on journey.
Yeah, this is it.
Yeah.
And people think that getting in shape is going to solve all your problems. It's really not.
No.
You know what I mean? It's really not. Like, you have to do that in the work. And that's the real work. Like, when you really go deep in yourself, you're met with some pretty tough decisions.
Yeah.
And, when you're staring at yourself in the mirror, it's a scary place. Definitely, yeah.
I mean, I like that, yeah. I like the fact that, like we've just said, when someone kind of thinks one answer is solving all their problems, like you just said. If someone wants to get big, I'm big, that's my problem sorted with, like, anything, confidence or how they feel about themselves or whatever. But when you dig a little bit deeper, there's a little bit more to it, isn't there?
Definitely.
Yeah, that's really interesting, actually. That's really got me thinking. But you've mentioned depression in a previous post on social media. Can we talk a little about what you've been through? So someone watching this may benefit from listening to your experience and how you've pushed past it.
So I think when we look at things like, mental well-being, mental health, I think the biggest part is, like we were just saying, you've got to understand who you are.
Yeah.
Because there's a real disconnection, I feel, between you as an individual, physical and mental, because it's two different things, right? People think that, getting in shape is going to solve all your problems. It's not. Yeah. And I think it's understanding, for me, like we were just talking about, got in really good shape, and I was like, I still feel shit.
Yeah.
I was like, what is this like? Looking in the mirror, I'm like, I couldn't hold a conversation. I was working, different, before I was a PT, I was working doing graphic design, and I was just like, there's a level of me that doesn't feel quite right.
Yeah.
So it's like, what is that feeling? Do I need to go a little bit deeper into that? But it's funny because when you feel like, okay, something's not quite right, you're met with this resistance. It's almost like, nah, I'll come back to that later.
Yeah.
But it's like, the best way I can describe it, it's like, and this is something I worked with a psychotherapist on years ago, and she was like, it's like a rucksack. You're just putting stuff in that rucksack, and it's just going to weigh you down. If you don't dive into that, it's really going to eat away at you. And it kind of, that was the work that I had to dive into. So for me, I'd say it started, I went traveling about 6 years ago now. So I'd never really been outside of, Europe. Went to Southeast Asia for 3 months, and shit, that shocked me because I thought I was, okay, pretty stable. When you put yourself in a different environment, you're going over borders, you're flying into a different country. It really puts you in a place where you're feel very overwhelmed. And I was like, why? Why am I feeling overwhelmed? To the point where I was like, something's not right. And for the first 2 of the 3 months, I was just waking up in the night sweating, and I was like, what is going on here? Came back and I was like, I need to do something about this. So I was like, a family friend referred me to a psychotherapist. She said, look, you know, she's more of a spiritual psychotherapist. So she delves into you, understanding who you are, not just like, I think this is the thing. Sometimes you've got different routes of like, you know, like looking after yourself. And I think you can go kind of like the counselling route. And I went down the counselling route. I did hypnotherapy, psychotherapy, different like energy work to try and understand who am I?
Yeah, who are you? What's going on?
Yeah, and this was it. And I was like, and I'd go to my session with my psychotherapist. This is like 6 years ago. And I'd go in there and I'd be like, okay, I didn't know what to expect. Yeah. And she'd be asking me, like, trying to understand a bit more. Come out of the session, I'd be thinking, feel good, feel great. And then get back and I'm like, shit, it's happening again. Yeah. What, you know, I thought, oh, one session, I'm done. No, it was about 5-6 years of just ongoing work to understand. And she educated me in saying it's not, you know, what you're experiencing now is a result of the past. You know, like depression, living in the past, anxiety is anticipating what's going to happen in the future. And when she said that to me, I was like, okay, well, what happened? You know, because and I was thinking, what happened? Because I was early 20s when I went to see her, and I was like, I had all these weird experiences. And she was asking me like, what's been going on? And I was just like, oh, you know, this happened and that happened. And I thought, that's normal. You know, that's normal. And she was like, it's not. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, and then you dive into that. So it's like, okay, well, you develop this, it's almost like a split personality. And she referred to it as like disassociation. So it's almost like when it's a coping mechanism as a child.
Yeah, I've heard of this.
Yeah.
But the one what I heard was when you normalise something.
Yeah.
So let's say if someone says to you, you know, how's it growing up, and oh yeah, you know, it's fine, and like, is any violence that you witnessed? And if you say something in a way, like say, oh yeah, you know, just sometimes, you know, my dad used to hit my mum, or you know, my mum used to hit my dad, and then you say it in a normal way, in your brain you've normalised it. Is that
100%? And that's
exactly. It's a trauma, but for you, like you said, you just normalised it.
This is it, because you just like, you see what happens, and that was what was happening as a kid. I was seeing things that were going on. I thought that's normal. Yeah. And then you just box yourself away. You know, when I grew up, it was me, my mum, my sister, and my dad. And a very much broken relationship with my dad. And I don't speak to him now because it was just, got to probably about 4 years ago, and I was just like, need to knock this on the head. Yeah. Because it's energy and it's draining.
You just need to block all of that out.
Yeah, and that's literally it. It was like, to the point where I was like, you know, and I think this is why I got into the gym. I struggled with my weight. I was like, why? You know, because I thought I was relatively healthy, but it was almost like a coping mechanism. Eating was a coping mechanism to what was going on. You know, I'd come in and maybe he'd say things to me about this, that, and the other. And I'd be like, okay. And then it's like, you can eat this, you can't eat that. And even as a kid going to school, getting out at school, like bullied for being out of shape. And it's like, it was just this cycle. You know, it was just this cycle. And I was like, you deal with it. You bottle it up, you disassociate. So it's almost like your body's here, but your mind's over here. Yeah. And I remember when I saw my psychotherapist, she'd always ask me every session, where's your mind today? Because it was almost like my body was here.
But you was
somewhere else.
And when I started seeing her, it was well over here. Yeah. But like towards like the kind of last sessions, years later, it was centered. So, and it was like, it was interesting to see that, because it was almost like, I don't know, if an argument had come up, I just kind of like, boom. Yeah. You know, it's almost like if someone like physically hit me, I wouldn't even, do you know what I mean? Because my body's, yeah. And that's what happened as a kid. You know, like things happen like that. Abuse, whether it's sexual abuse, you know, physical abuse, those things happened. Yeah. So it's like, and I only realised that a few years ago. Yeah. You know, when I was speaking to her, I was like, something's not right. I dealt with all these things, you know, like dealt with, you know, whether it was verbal abuse, you know, whether it was abuse at school. And I was like, it came with my relationships. Yeah. I was having issues in my relationships because I was like, something's not quite right. Yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, it's probably because of that. Yeah. And then I remember seeing my psychotherapist, and she was like to me, oh, what is it? And I was like, I don't know. It's almost like this issue around, you know, at the time it was like this issue around like the guys. Yeah. And I was like, oh, why? And then she was like asking me these questions, and I just broke down. And I was like, you know, why? And I said to her, yeah, this sexual abuse happened to me when I was a kid by another guy as well. So it was almost like, how do you deal with that? Yeah. How do you deal with that as an adult, let alone as a kid? Yeah. And it's one of those things, because I remember the only person I told was my granddad. And it came up about 4 years ago when he passed away. I was like, that's when the lid came off. Because I told him, and at the time, he dismissed it, because he didn't really know about that.
Yeah.
He was, oh yeah, it's kind of like, don't worry about it kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, and he was the first person I told, and I didn't tell anyone else.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I only told my mum. Well, I couldn't even tell my mum.
Yeah.
Told my mum about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
It's one of the, how do you tell, your parent, this happened to you? Do you know what I mean? So it's like one of those things where, and then it's like, okay, back to therapy again, unraveling this, why did this happen? Because it's like, they say between the ages of 7 and 12, I believe, whatever happens to you between that time frame will impact you for the rest of your life.
Really?
Yeah. So whatever happened during that time frame, I think it might be 7, 12, or 5 and 12, whatever happened during that period, it shapes how you live your life.
And what age did you start going to see someone?
I would say it was about, when I came back from traveling, I was probably about 20, I think I was about 20 or 21. Right. So I started like, I need to do something about this. So I was like, right, okay, well, I'm going to go and speak to someone. And first I went to the doctors. And I'm not, disrespecting anyone that takes medication, but they were just like to me, take this. But I was like, but if I take this, what's it going to do to me? I was like, I need something else.
I'm so glad you just said that.
Yeah, I need something else.
Do you think a lot of it is to do with like manifesting?
I think massively, yeah.
And like you said, energy.
But the biggest thing is, people don't know who they are. Yeah. That is the biggest thing, I think.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, because people don't know who they are. Because I think this is the thing, because it kind of, going and doing that work is a level of, you're going to be met with some real demons. Yeah. And if you don't do that work, it's going to eat up at you. But at the same time, you don't realise what's on the other side of that. And it may be that short term, a year of struggle, dealing with that, but it's going to be so much more beneficial for you really diving into that. It's like slapping a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. Yeah. It's deep. Yeah. It's the cause and the effect. You don't treat the effect, you have to treat the cause. And this is the thing I think sometimes, and again, I'm not, down talking to like medication, but I think sometimes if you don't work on the cause, because, medication is the effect. You're dealing with the effect by putting in, it's numbing that feeling.
Yeah, so that's short term.
Exactly.
That's, most definitely short term.
Yeah, exactly. But then what happens if you take a medication away from someone? Yeah. Then it's a coping mechanism because they don't know what to do. Yeah. And I think this is why we see a lot of struggle in society today, because we're dependent on a system that doesn't necessarily work for the individual. And if you don't know who you are, then how do you expect to live your life?
And I feel like people don't understand, like when they go see someone, it's like, oh, it's not working. I've been there 3 or 4 times, it's not working. Yeah. But you've been there for quite a while now. Yeah. And people don't understand, you have to literally build that up. Yeah, build it up slowly. Like I said, they need to know you.
This is it, yeah.
Understand you.
Yeah, and this is it, because having thoughts of suicide is not, quote unquote, a normal thing. No. Yeah. It's like, why am I feeling that? Yeah. Why am I feeling these feelings that I felt for years? Yeah. And I was like, I can't even, at that point I was like, I can't tell anyone. I can't talk to anyone about how I feel. But it's like, why not? And I was like, right, you know what? I'm going to speak to this person, see how it goes. I tried, well, obviously I went to the doctors first, GP, and they were saying, I went for about 6, 7 times, and I was just in an absolute state. I think this is the thing with depression. When you kind of fall into that state, your just body kind of shuts down.
It does. You can't do anything.
And this is the thing. And
I remember. People don't realise this.
This is the thing. I remember being at my mum's house, and Danny came round, and I was just in bed all day, just sitting in bed, curtains closed. Probably she came around about 4 p.m. She's like, you need to go outside. Yeah. You need to get some air on you. And that's when it's like, right, okay. That got the momentum going. And this was like years ago. So I was in bed, and she just came around. And I remember I just sat there in the day. If I was at my mum's house, and I'd sit in bed and just stare at the wall for hours.
Yeah, but the thing is, you won't even know hours have passed.
This is it.
You don't even know what day it is.
Nah, I mean, I'm going to be completely honest. I mean, I think I've briefly spoken to you about it as well. It was a couple of years ago where I had the same problem. Not the same problem, but I just fell into this thing, this dark place. And then exactly the same where, I didn't even ring the doctors. Someone else rang the doctors on my behalf because I couldn't get myself to do it. And then they said to me straight away, so what we're going to do, we're going to give you these tablets and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I don't want tablets, man. Like, I'm not after a tablet. I know I'm unwell, but that's a different unwell. This ain't a tablet, this is something else. And I'm trying to work out what it is. Yeah. I'm stressing that more because I don't know what it is. And then, man, I mean, I similar to what you said, I stayed in bed for about 2 weeks. 2 weeks I stayed in bed, and you know, I was unwell, but not physically, mentally. In bed for 2 weeks, you know, like I said, curtains shut, no one heard from me, phone's on airplane mode, don't even, do you know what I mean, doors locked, don't come anywhere near me. Then after them 2 weeks, you know, that's when I started studying a little bit more about myself, like exactly what you've said, you know, you dig a little bit deeper, and you know, I started reading some books, I started thinking a little bit differently, I started tweaking little things day by day, and then luckily for me, that brought me back to, you know, where I need 100%. To be. Luckily, because I mean, I would say luckily because a lot of people cannot get themselves back to that. Feet, a lot of people do need help. A lot of people are scared to do it.
100%.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I feel like they're very embarrassed to go to someone. That's why they'll be like, okay, let me just take this. I think this is absolutely fine.
Is it three in 4 men is what the statistic is? No, sorry, 3 in 4 men.
It's high.
3 in 4 people and men commit suicide. Is that right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it's probably changed now, but it's always changing.
And it's some scary numbers there. But I'm really happy you said that about what you've just said.
This is the biggest thing. It's like being open.
Just talking about it now. You know.
Of course, yeah. And it is another way. I think that's the thing that I didn't realise that was actually another way. But like quite right you said, it's like you've got to go inwards. And sometimes it means, for me, it meant disconnecting with the outside world. Like it meant, you know, just having a period where I was just like, right, I'm going to literally focus on mind, body, soul. You know, what am I putting into my mind? No, that meant for me no TV. No TV unless it's, you know, YouTube's okay because it's controlled. Because you can control what you watch. So no TV, you know, mind, body, soul. So it's like, okay, so, you know, even as a coach, you know, I wasn't training at that point. So I was like, I'm meant to be a billboard, but it's like, you know what I mean? When you're not a billboard,
what you preach, yeah.
So it's like, shut myself off. I was like, right, I'm just going to do a month of just like, I'm going to go inwards. So I literally just went every morning. So I knew one thing. The thing is with mental health, you've got to change your state. Because if you're living in that depressed state or you're living, you know, feeling overwhelmed or anxious, you've got to snap. You've got to have something just to change. It's like, you know, if it's one of those things where, and I remember looking in the mirror and I listened to, it was Tony Robbins at the time, and he was talking about, you know, how to, basically he was saying how to fix a depressed state. So he was saying, looking in the mirror, you know, smiling from ear to ear. And I was like, how silly does that sound? Do you know what I mean? When you're in that, you're feeling low, and I tried it. I was like, but it's weird because it's almost like, you know you need help, but you're resisting it. Because you're just feeling like, I don't even know where to start. But it's easy just to stay here, stay in this feeling. But what that's doing to you, what it's doing to your body, you know, the chemistry in your body, is just, it's so negative. But you can, this is the thing, you can change that. And I think that's the biggest thing.
It's like when I was going through something in lockdown, I feel like the best thing was just getting out, getting some air, going for a jog. After that, you feel good about it. Coming back, reading a book, like a self-help book. And it just really helps you. Makes you think.
It's understanding what you can use to help you, isn't it? Because everyone's completely different.
This is it, Everyone is so different.
But yeah, man, I don't know about you, but I feel like a weight's been lifted.
Bro, I'm not, I love it. I love it.
I feel
That's
so,
good though.
Do you know what I'm saying? This is why I love speaking to dogs. Do you know what I mean? Every time I see you in the gym, I'm like, yo, there's my God. Do you know what I mean? Because I feel so like...
I can relate a lot of stuff. It's, like you said, it's just taking so much weight off my shoulders.
The funny thing is, well, you know what, I was listening to a guy called Bob Proctor. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Who, sorry?
Bob Proctor.
No.
And he's like a self-development guru. He died a few years ago. He was like in his 90s. He's one of the OGs, as it were, that started it all. And a lot of these guys nowadays, the new guys, kind of look up to these past influences, quote unquote. And he was saying the problem is we don't know who we are. Like, we don't know who we are, and we're all the same. We're all the same. Like, we all go through the same things. But it's interesting when you guys saying about the weight feeling lifted, but maybe that's down to our conditioning, especially in the West, how we're conditioned to think and feel like we shouldn't talk about this, don't talk about that. You know, like even, you know, growing up, people said to me, like, don't talk about this, you know, like, oh, dismiss that. And that's the problem.
It's like me growing up in an Indian household. You have to have that respect, or you're not allowed to talk over someone. Just little things, like you have to eat this, you know? You have to do this, and it's just like, there's a lot of weight that goes on, like people do not know about, and it's fascinating to.
And they call it being a chain breaker. So when you're breaking, like societal norms of how, say, you know, parents have, you know, brought you up, you know, whether it's, you know, your own parents or grandparents, a certain way. But then it's like, you know, actually, I want to be different. So it's breaking the chains. So it's like, whatever, you know, trauma I've been through, for example, I won't let that pass on. Because I encourage people to talk about it. And it's very different when you look at families and you look up the ladder of previous, you know, like your parents, their parents, and you think, actually, it makes a lot of sense. It's breaking that generational chain. It's interesting.
Definitely. Yeah, man. I feel good right now.
Good.
Yeah, definitely.
This is the impact you have on people.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Another interesting one is you know, I've spoken about how your lifestyle, and everything that you do is very admiring. Do you know what I mean? How you are. And I wanna just touch on the difference between your discipline and your motivation, because a lot of people don't understand those two words having different meanings. We've briefly spoke about in the gym when I came and said to you, like, bro, I've just started doing the cold showers. It's good, isn't it? I was like, yo, it's insane.
Yeah, it's mad. You know what the thing is with cold showers, though? It kind of goes back to what we were saying a minute ago about changing your state. Because it's like, you know, if you're feeling depressed, you're feeling down, when you feel that emotion, you're thinking of that. But if you're feeling like that, you go and jump in a lake, a cold lake, that's going to change your state. And it's the same way getting in a cold shower. And that's one of the things I started doing. And I was like, okay, well, we're onto something here. Because it's like, you're thinking about the past when you're feeling depressed. But if you get into like something that's going to change your state, whether it's like a cold shower or you do
environment or anything,
this is it. That is going to change what you're thinking, because for a brief second, you're pattern interrupting yourself. So you're changing your pattern, you're changing your state, and you forget about it for a second, and then you're like, okay, what was I just thinking about? Do you know what I mean? Because then you're not thinking about feeling depressed. You're thinking about that was cold. That was cold. And then you're like, okay. But if you do that, you know, that's what I was doing in the mornings. I used to go, first thing I'd be like rearing myself up. I'd be stood outside the shower and I'd be like, what are you doing right now? And I was like proper Wim Hof in it, doing all the breath work. And I was like, this is going to suck. But I was like, right, I'm just going to do it. So I got in, got out, I was like, right, I'm going to go for a walk. And I was like, when you're out, like you quite rightly said a minute ago, when you're outside in the sun, or even if you're just getting some sunlight, what it does for your, you know, what it does for yourself, your overall well-being, it elevates your state on another level. It is crazy.
And this is what I'm getting at with the difference between motivation and discipline. You've for the example of the cold shower, it isn't you know, anymore thinking, right, okay, I need to be motivated to do this and this. It's the discipline of, no, today I'm going in a cold shower, I'm doing, no questions asked. No BS. Straight in, this is what I need to do. I need to go in that cold shower, then I need to go for a walk, then I've got things I need to come back to and tackle to get through my day, and then I need to do this. It ain't about being motivated, it ain't about psyching yourself up anymore, is it? No. It's knowing that you've got to do them things in order to get to where you need to be.
This is it. It's you have like this kind of like this process of who you want to be as an individual, this identity. And I think this is the thing, like, how, as an identity, how do you want to look as a man? What are the characteristic traits for that person? Are they disciplined? Are they like highly driven? And it's okay, we'll start building that character. It's almost like you're building a character from a story.
It's like if you wanted to look up to someone, how would you want them to be,
exactly,
right?
Yeah. And this is the thing, like you were saying a minute ago, it's like, I'd feel a fraud if I was saying to people, you know, come on guys, snap out of it. Do you know what I mean? But I'm not doing it myself. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to eat healthy. I always think practice what you preach. And I think that's the biggest thing, because there's people out there that don't do that. And I think if I'm trusting someone with my health, or not just health, but if I'm trusting someone, they better back up what they do. Don't just kind of give it the, I do this, but I don't do it. And I think that's the problem with a lot, not everyone, but you get people out there that do, they talk more than they actually do. I think that's the thing.
Joe, I cannot thank you enough for coming on. I'm just about out of time.
Honestly,
thank you. It's
been an absolute pleasure.
That was insane, but honestly, mate, thank you. Just before we wrap up, would you know to let everyone know what your Instagram is, just so they can give you a quick follow?
So it's just my initials, so JWCOACHING on Instagram. Don't really use Facebook, don't have Twitter. Yeah, it's literally just Instagram.
Nice. So thank you so much.
No, thank you guys. Honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. I'm getting up. Cheers, man.